Well, guess who happened to swing into the Best Wines Online tasting room? Next to me is the great Anne Trimbach of that Trimbach, yes, the famous Trimbach winery in Alsace, one of the finest producers in all of Alsace, if I may say so. They make a huge range of wines that run the gamut from new to old, all different styles, and the key is they do it all in a classic, beautiful fashion. Some of the finest terroir-driven wines in Alsace. So Anne, welcome to the Best Wines Online tasting room, and what a treat it is to have you here. We should talk about a couple things while you're here quickly. First of all, I want to discuss with you, because we tasted a few 2010s, yes. 2010, the new vintage that just came to market, and these are outstanding.
Thank you.
The Gewürztraminer, the Riesling, I mean, these are some of the finest examples of these wines you ever made. What is it about the vintage and your style together that made such fabulous wine in 2010?
So 2010 has been a great vintage in Alsace, even though we had a quite long and rude winter, so we lost basically 30% of our total production. But the quality is there. The vintage 2010, very concentrated, beautiful purity, very, very precise, probably one of the most precise and purest vintage ever. So
combination
of everything, healthy grapes, beautiful acidity, which is probably the highest in the last 20 years. I don't know, it's amazing. But ripe acidity, really perfect for our style of wines, because we love the freshness in the wines from Alsace. We will never do malolactic fermentation, of course.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Perfect vintage, yeah.
And many of these wines, there's like particularly with the older wines and the higher selections, they come from top Grand Cru sites, right? But there has never been a need at Trimbach to put the sites on the label. And well, tell us why that is, because a lot of people, the first thing they do is put the site really big on the bottle to let you know how special it is. But at Trimbach, that's never been the case. Why?
I think our names, especially for the Cuvée Frédéric Émile, became famous already in the early 60s. So my grandfather decided that he didn't want to change the name. Cuvée Frédéric Émile is a name that means a lot for us. It's the name of my great-great-great-grandfather. And he was a great winemaker, and the name now is quite famous all around the world. So it's like a brand. We didn't want to change that name. Never.
Right.
And Cuvée des Seigneurs de Ribeaupierre Gewürztraminer also means something. It's a homage to the history of Ribeauvillé, our village in the middle of Alsace. So again, we didn't want to change the name. Same for Clos Saint-Une. We kept
the name
our
speaks
names.
for itself. Yeah.
They do.
The key thing to remember is on these wines, there's some serious Grand Cru juice in them. So even though you see just Ribeaupierre, which, as Anne says, is actually arguably more famous than the vineyard itself that it comes from, just remember that there's serious juice coming into these wines. Now, do those serious Grand Cru vineyards help with the ageability of these wines? Because what we taste, like for example, I have this 2000 Hommage à Jean in the glass, and the wine's absolutely brilliant at 13 years old. Is it a combination of the sites, or what is it about these wines that? Because I don't see a lot of wine in Alsace aging as well as these in general. What's the magic?
So, of course, the site is very important. In Alsace, we have a diversity of terroir which is quite extraordinary. From north to south, it's a beautiful place to grow these kind of grapes. So the site is very important, the type of soil, of course. Here we are on the Grand Cru Osterberg. For Frédéric Émile, it's Grand Cru Geisberg and Grand Cru Osterberg, which is also one of the reasons why we couldn't call it Grand Cru, of course.
Right.
Sandy stone, so pinky sandstone, the Grès des Vosges from Alsace, and a lot of limestone. Beautiful old vines catching minerality and the minerals very deeply in the ground. Beautiful exposure to the sun, smaller yield for these wines, of course, and then a combination with my father Pierre, who has been our winemaker for 32 years now, so he knows what he's doing. I think.
A little bit, yeah.
Our wines, our style of wine has always been quite well known for aging a little bit, yes. And in Alsace, we are very lucky to have a beautiful microclimate, which helps us also to have a quite dry weather, and it helps us to make those beautiful wines for sure.
For sure.
It's a combination of everything, not just the vinification or the style. Yes.
Well, might I say, the Trimbach wines to me right now are if it's almost crazy to say, but they seem to be even getting better and better.
Thank you.
Even after 33 years, the craft is still being honed. Things are still happening in the winery. I see better delineation, more clarity, more precision in the flavors as we go forward with these wines. So is there something always to be learned at Trimbach, even though it's a classic Alsatian house?
I think we never changed anything. I mean, we are using more modern material at the winery, of course. In the vineyards as well, we changed a little bit the way of working in our vineyards, of course. We improve ourselves year after year after year. And even my father, even if he knows how to make wine, he's also asking questions to himself, how to improve himself and get better every year. And he did quite well so far. I hope he will stay with us for many, many, many more years.
I hope so too. I hope it goes from 33 to 43 to 53 to 63.
Yes, but if we take the example of Jeanne, who was my great-grandmother, she lived until she was 104 years old, so it seems like the Alsace wine keeps you alive quite a long time. So
And her reasoning for that specifically was the quality of the wines from Alsace. Yeah. Well, so basically here's the deal. As Anne said, if you start drinking Trimbach, Gewürztraminer, Riesling, and Pinot Gris now, you have a very good shot of living probably at least an extra 20 years.
Yes.
Definitely. Yeah, absolutely. So start drinking.
Yes.
Thank you, Anne. I feel younger already.
Me too.
Cheers.
Cheers.